This story begins the way so many do. A man with a respectable job, a decent salary, and a life that, from the outside, looked like a dream, but behind every accomplishment, there's a hidden cost, and sometimes you only realize what you're giving up when it's almost too late to turn back. Gabriel was 36, a driven financial manager in a respected firm. Year after year, he pushed himself harder, chasing every promotion, proving his worth to the world. On paper, he was the perfect professional, loyal, unstoppable, committed. But the truth? The truth was that every late night, every missed dinner with his 8-year-old daughter Alice, every moment of his wife's worried silence, was cutting away at something inside him. His marriage was on the edge, his health was failing, and every time Gabriel looked in the mirror, he saw someone he barely recognized. Success was coming at a price he never meant to pay. One morning, though, everything changed. By chance, he crossed paths with Helena, an old friend who had once burned out. Just like he was about to. She'd rebuilt herself into a motivational coach. And she saw right through Gabriel's polished, professional mask. She saw the fear, the exhaustion, the quiet desperation, and in that moment, she sparked something in him, something he thought he'd lost. But a spark alone can't fix a broken life. Gabriel would soon have to stand up to Jonas, his hard-nosed boss who saw empathy as weakness. He'd have to face Alice, the daughter who needed her dad more than she needed money. And, most of all, he'd have to face himself and ask what truly matters before everything fell apart. This isn't just a story about burnout and recovery. This is a story about courage, about stopping before you break, about taking time to sharpen your axe so you don't destroy yourself with your own ambition, about the power of asking for help, about leading with empathy, and about the hardest lesson of all, that no amount of success is worth losing who you are. Over the next 30 minutes, I invite you to step into Gabriel's world, feel his doubt, his pain, his moments of hope, and the tiny victories that helped him rise again. And if you were in his shoes, would you have the courage to change before it's too late? Tell me in the comments. I'd love to hear your perspective. Now, let's start Chapter 1, where a simple morning in Gabriel's routine will soon shake the ground beneath everything he believed. Chapter 1. The Spark and the Shattered Mirror. Glowing star. The alarm buzzed at 5:30 a.m. like every morning. Gabriel's eyes shot open, mind racing before his feet even touched the floor. Reports, deadlines, Jonas breathing down his neck. Another day of the grind. The same as yesterday. The same as tomorrow. He looked over to the other side of the bed, where Laura still slept, hair tangled across the pillow, face peaceful. They hadn't spoken properly in days. The silence between them was thicker than any argument. Gabriel's heart sank, remembering Alice, their daughter, who'd asked last night if he'd be home for dinner. "I'll try," he'd said, and as always, try meant no. Gabriel dragged himself to the bathroom, splashed cold water on his face, and stared into the mirror. The man who looked back at him seemed older than 36. Tired, hollow. "Who are you?" he whispered to himself, voice cracking. A small knock on the door startled him. "Daddy?" Alice's sleepy voice came through the gap. He forced a smile. "Hey, sweetheart, what's up? Are you really coming to my dance practice today?" That question was a dagger to his chest. He knew he wouldn't make it. There was a big client presentation. Jonas would kill him if he bailed. I'll try, honey." She looked down, disappointed, then nodded like she already knew. "Okay, Daddy." The door clicked shut, leaving Gabriel with an ache so sharp it made him grip the sink to steady himself. Downstairs, Laura was waiting by the coffee maker, eyes red, trying to hide behind her mug. "Don't even say it," she murmured before he could speak. "Say what?" Gabriel sighed. "That you'll try." "Gabriel, she's 8. She needs her dad, not a ghost. I'm doing this for us." He snapped back, voice breaking. Laura shook her head, tears gathering in her eyes. "No, you're doing this for you. And one day, You'll look around and realize there's no one left to fight for. The clock on the microwave glowed 6:15. Gabriel grabbed his briefcase, every step heavy as lead. "I'll make it up to you," he whispered. Laura didn't answer. On the train, Gabriel tried to breathe, but the guilt sat on his chest like a cinder block. He scrolled through emails, the endless demands, the numbers, the pressure, but in the background, Alice's disappointed face haunted him. That afternoon, as he stepped out of a suffocating meeting, he saw a familiar face in the building lobby. Helena. It took a second for him to recognize her. Her hair was shorter, her posture stronger, her eyes alive, so different from the Helena he'd known, who had burned out years ago and nearly lost everything. "Gabriel?" she called out, smiling warmly. "Helena, wow, I haven't seen you in forever. You look busy," she said gently, scanning his expensive suit, the stress lines on his face. He tried to laugh. "Yeah, you know, living the dream." Helena's eyes narrowed, seeing right through him. "Or living the nightmare?" Gabriel's smile faltered, something in his chest twisted. "Look," Helena continued, "I've been there, working yourself until you break, thinking you're irreplaceable, and then realizing the only person you're really replacing is yourself." Her words hit like a punch. "You don't understand," Gabriel muttered defensively. "I have responsibilities. I can't just walk away." Helena nodded patiently. "No, you can't walk away, but you can pause. You can sharpen your axe." "Gabriel, sharpen my axe?" he repeated, confused. "It's an old lumberjack saying," she explained with a soft grin. "If you cut and cut and cut without stopping, one day you'll break. You have to stop and sharpen your axe. Rest, reflect, fix what's getting dull." Gabriel shook his head, still resisting, but her words lingered. "Sharpen the axe. If you ever want to talk," Helena offered, pulling out a business card with her coaching service logo. "No pressure. But you're not alone." Before he could answer, Helena was gone, leaving Gabriel clutching that small piece of cardstock like a lifeline. He sighed, stuffing it in his pocket, then turned to leave, only to see Jonas, his boss, striding towards him with a cold grin. "Gabriel," Jonas barked, "I hope you're not wasting time on personal nonsense. We've got a presentation to save." Gabriel froze. The weight of it all crushed him again. But somewhere deep down, a voice whispered, "Maybe Helena is right. Maybe it's time to sharpen the axe. And maybe that tiny spark could become a fire." In the next chapter, Gabriel will have to choose between giving in to the pressure of his ruthless boss, or finding the courage to take the first step toward reclaiming his family and himself. Stay with me, because what happens next could change everything. Chapter 2. The Weight of a Choice. Gabriel couldn't focus on the slides in front of him. Numbers blurred together. Words felt empty. Jonas was standing over his shoulder, breathing impatience like a wolf waiting to pounce. "Gabriel," Jonas snapped, tapping the screen with an impatient finger. "This section is garbage. Fix it, now." Gabriel clenched his jaw. His hands were shaking. "Why can't I think?" "Yes, sir," he forced out. Jonas crossed his arms, his voice dripping with contempt. "Don't bring your personal crap to work. You're here to deliver results, not excuses." Gabriel swallowed the bitterness, fighting the urge to shout. But Helena's words echoed in his mind. "Sharpen your axe." "Jonas," he said quietly, trying to steady his breath. I need to leave by 5 today. My daughter has a dance showcase. I promised her." Jonas barked a dry laugh. "Promised? You work here." "Gabriel, promises to your kid don't pay our bonuses." Gabriel's chest tightened. "This is my life. This is who I've become. I'm leaving at 5. Gabriel repeated, his voice gaining a tremor of strength. Jonas stepped forward, eyes cold as steel. "You do that, and you can pack your desk tomorrow." For a moment, the entire office seemed to freeze. People at nearby desks looked away, pretending not to listen, but every ear was tuned in. Gabriel's pulse thundered. "I can't lose this job. But I can't keep losing Alice." 5. Gabriel said again, firmer now. I'll finish the numbers by then. But I'm going. Jonas's lip curled, ready to spit more venom. But something in Gabriel's stare made him hesitate. Maybe for the first time seeing a man who wouldn't break. Jonas scoffed. Fine, but you better not screw this up. Gabriel nodded, turned away, and tried to calm his racing heart. 5. I will be there at 5. As the hours crawled by, his hands moved faster than they had in weeks. Powered by something new. Resolve. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough. At 4:58 p.m., Gabriel shut his laptop. Heart pounding, he grabbed his coat, ignoring Jonas's burning glare, and bolted for the elevator. The winter air outside bit his face, but it felt like freedom. He raced to the train, his mind a jumble of fear and hope. What if he was too late? What if Alice had given up on him? The train rocked through the fading daylight, and Gabriel couldn't help remembering the tiny ballet slippers Alice had left by the door that morning. As if begging him to notice them, he arrived at the studio breathless. The parking lot was nearly empty. The show already starting. Gabriel burst through the double doors and scanned the rows of folding chairs. His eyes found Laura first, surprised. Wary, holding her phone like she might text him to ask where he was. He approached quietly. Hey. Laura's jaw dropped. You came? I promised, Gabriel said, voice breaking. Laura's eyes filled with tears. A mix of shock and gratitude. Then he saw her, Alice. On stage, in a tiny blue leotard. Spinning in time with the music. Her eyes darted across the audience. Searching. When they found him, her whole face lit up. Gabriel's own tears came then. Unstoppable. As she smiled the purest smile he'd ever seen. After the show, Alice raced into his arms, hugging him so tightly he could barely breathe. Daddy, you saw me. Of course I did, baby, he whispered, voice shaking. Laura stepped closer, her voice soft but steady. I don't know what happened at work, Gabriel, but thank you. He nodded, holding Alice close, breathing in the moment, letting it burn through every layer of guilt and exhaustion. But as he looked over his daughter's shoulder, Gabriel knew something had to change for good. One night wouldn't fix everything. Jonas would come for him. His career would suffer. But, was it worth it? The answer felt clear. Maybe for the first time, yes. That night, after tucking Alice into bed, Gabriel finally picked up Helena's card. He turned it over in his hands, thinking about the choices ahead. Laura sat beside him on the couch, a tremor in her voice. Are we going to be okay? Gabriel exhaled, long and ragged. I don't know, he admitted, but I'm ready to try. Really try. She reached out, taking his hand, hesitant, but willing. Then we'll try together, she said softly. And for the first time in months, Gabriel felt a fragile sense of hope. In Chapter 3, Gabriel will have to face the consequences of defying Jonas, and discover whether he truly has the courage to rebuild his life from the inside out. Stay with me, because the road ahead will test every limit he has. Chapter 3. The Breaking Point. The next morning, the sun felt cruel as it streamed through the blinds. Gabriel lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling, heart pounding. He'd broken every rule yesterday, Jonas's rules, the company's rules, even his own rules. A single thought circled in his mind like a vulture. What happens now? He showered quickly, dressed in a crisp shirt that suddenly felt like armor, and kissed Alice on the forehead before leaving. Laura watched him go with a worried look, but he forced a smile. I'll be okay, he lied. The office felt colder than usual, the fluorescent lights humming like an interrogation lamp. As soon as Gabriel stepped out of the elevator, he saw Jonas waiting by his office door, arms crossed, jaw tight. Inside, Jonas ordered. Gabriel's stomach churned, but he obeyed, closing the door behind him. Jonas didn't waste a second. Who the hell do you think you are, Gabriel? Walking out on me during a critical delivery? Gabriel stayed silent, breathing through the dread. I should fire you right now, Jonas snarled, pacing like a caged beast. You cost me time. You cost me face in front of clients. I cost you? Gabriel finally snapped, surprising himself. I'm killing myself for this place. And you talk about cost? I've given you everything. Jonas stopped cold, taken aback. Excuse me? I missed birthdays, anniversaries, school plays. I've watched my marriage fall apart because of this job. And I still came back. Every single time. Gabriel's voice trembled with rage. But yesterday was my daughter's dance. And I wasn't going to miss it. Fire me if you have to. For a moment, Jonas actually looked impressed. Then his face hardened again. I'm not firing you, he growled, but you're off the next big client. Don't expect to rise here with that attitude. Gabriel exhaled, a strange mix of relief and disappointment flooding him. Fine. Jonas's eyes narrowed, sensing something had shifted. You're soft. Gabriel, that's your problem. You think life is about hugs and happy kids? Life is about winning. Don't forget it. Gabriel shook his head, a quiet strength growing in his chest. No, life is about balance, and I'm done sacrificing everything for your definition of winning. Jonas scoffed, dismissing him with a flick of his hand. Get out of my office. Gabriel turned to leave, feeling a surprising lightness, even as the fear of what came next gnawed at him. Outside the office, Helena's business card seemed to burn a hole in his pocket. Maybe it was time to call. Maybe it was time to talk. During lunch, Gabriel sat alone on a bench in the building's tiny courtyard. The winter wind sliced through his coat. But he didn't move. Finally, he dialed Helena's number. Helena? His voice cracked. Gabriel, she replied calmly. I was hoping you'd call. I think I'm ready. He admitted. I'm ready to try to fix myself. Helena's voice was warm, steady. That's brave. Most people never take the first step. I don't know where to start. Gabriel confessed, staring at the pavement. You've already started, she reassured him. You made a choice for your family. That's everything. Let's talk tonight? Gabriel nodded, a strange hope breaking through the exhaustion. Yeah, tonight. As he hung up, his phone buzzed. A message from Laura. Thank you for yesterday. Alice hasn't stopped talking about you. Gabriel's throat tightened. He typed back. I'm trying to change. We see it. Laura replied simply. The afternoon dragged on painfully. Jonas made sure to glare at Gabriel whenever he passed by. But Gabriel kept his head down, determined to finish the day. That night, back home, Gabriel settled in at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee gone cold. When Helena called, he picked up instantly. So tell me, she began gently. What do you want? The question punched him in the gut. What do I want? He closed his eyes, picturing Alice's face, Laura's tears, his own reflection from this morning. I want to be present, he said slowly, voice shaking. I want to stop missing everything. Helena's voice was soft, patient. Then let's get you there. Piece by piece. Gabriel let out a ragged breath, overwhelmed but strangely lighter. One day at a time. Helena reminded him. One day at a time. He echoed, almost believing it. In Chapter 4, Gabriel will face his toughest test yet, rebuilding trust with Laura, while risking everything to stand up for what he truly believes in. Stay with me, because the battle for his future is only just beginning. Chapter 4. A house divided. The following week felt like walking a tightrope. Every morning, Gabriel forced himself out of bed, kissed Alice, gave Laura an awkward half-smile, and trudged into work, where Jonas made sure to remind him how close he was to the chopping block. But every evening, Gabriel called Helena. Piece by piece, he started picking apart the walls he'd built around himself. Guilt, shame, fear. Each phone call felt like surgery on a wound that refused to heal. One Thursday night, Laura finally cornered him. The moment he stepped through the door, she stood waiting in the living room, arms crossed. Gabriel, she said, steady but cold. We need to talk. His stomach sank. Okay. She motioned to the couch. And he sat down. She stayed standing. You can't just show up once and expect everything to be fine. She began. Alice was thrilled, of course. But, me? I'm terrified. Gabriel lowered his gaze, shame flooding him. I know. You've let us down so many times. Laura continued, voice breaking. Do you know how many nights I had to lie to Alice? How many mornings I had to hold back my own tears just to keep her from worrying? Gabriel flinched like she'd slapped him. God, I did this to them. I'm trying. Laura, he whispered. I'm trying to be better. Laura shook her head. Trying is a start. But what happens the next time Jonas threatens you? What happens when the next big project lands on your desk? Gabriel swallowed hard. I'll fight for us. For real this time. Laura stared at him, searching for sincerity. Prove it, she challenged, her eyes shining with exhausted hope. I will, he promised, voice shaking. The conversation hung between them like a loaded gun, pointed at every fragile hope they still carried. That weekend, Gabriel decided to act. When Alice invited him to a father-daughter school picnic, he told Jonas on Friday he'd be taking the day off, no exceptions. Jonas slammed a folder on his desk. You have a death wish. Gabriel? I'm going. Gabriel answered calmly. Jonas stepped closer, eyes burning with threat. You walk out on me again. And you're done here. You hear me? Gabriel took a slow breath. Then I'm done. Jonas froze, genuinely stunned. You'd throw this away for a picnic? Not just a picnic, Gabriel said, voice steady as steel. For my daughter. For my family. Jonas sneered. Get out of my office. Gabriel left without a word, feeling a terrifying freedom. A freedom that tasted both sweet and bitter on his tongue. The next day, Alice jumped into his arms at the picnic. Squealing with delight, he spent hours helping her paint, playing tag, laughing until his sides hurt. Laura watched from a distance, a guarded smile creeping across her lips, as if allowing herself to believe again. Later, as they drove home with Alice asleep in the backseat, Laura spoke softly. You really did it, she said. Gabriel nodded, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. I meant what I said. Laura reached across the seat, resting her hand on his. I want to believe you. Gabe, I really do. I'll keep showing up, he promised. Every day. That night, after tucking Alice in, Gabriel went back to the kitchen table, opened his laptop, and started researching new jobs. Jobs with reasonable hours. Jobs with bosses who valued people. Jobs where he could live, not just survive. Helena called just as he was closing the computer. How was today? She asked. Good, Gabriel replied, voice thick with gratitude. Really, really good. You sound different, Helena noted. Gabriel chuckled, wiping away a tear. Maybe I am. Helena's voice turned serious. Change isn't easy. Gabriel, Jonas will fight you. Your own fears will fight you. But remember, one day at a time. One day at a time. He repeated, breathing deep, anchoring himself. It was time to stop letting fear run his life. In Chapter 5, Gabriel will discover whether he truly has the strength to walk away from his toxic career and build a new life, even if that means risking everything. Don't miss the next chapter, where his greatest test awaits. Chapter 5. The Cost of Freedom. The Monday after the picnic, Gabriel turned in his resignation letter. His hands trembled as he slid the envelope across Jonas's polished desk. Jonas leaned back, a smirk tugging at his lips. You serious? Gabriel nodded. I am. Jonas chuckled darkly. I warned you, didn't I? You think you'll land on your feet? With your record? Gabriel swallowed the fear burning in his throat. Maybe. But I'd rather risk falling than keep crawling for you. Jonas's smirk twisted into a scowl. Get out of my office. Gabriel left without looking back. As he stepped outside, the morning sun struck him like a promise. He should have felt relief, but the fear of the unknown clung to him like a second skin. That night, Laura met him at the kitchen table. So, it's done? She asked. It's done, Gabriel confirmed. Laura's shoulders tensed. What are we going to do? Gabe? The bills. Alice's school. The mortgage. Gabriel reached for her hand. I have a plan. I've been applying. There are other places. Healthier ones. Laura's voice quivered. But what if you don't find one in time? Gabriel squeezed her fingers, fighting the tremor in his own voice. Then we'll figure it out together. The days crawled by. Rejection after rejection landed in his inbox, each one slicing another piece of confidence away. At night, he'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to Laura's breathing and Alice's gentle snores down the hall. Am I failing them again? Helena became a lifeline. One night, as Gabriel sat in the park with her, watching dusk swallow the playground, he opened up. I feel like a fraud. He confessed, like I'm dragging them down with me. Helena studied him with patient eyes. Gabriel, you walked away from a prison. That takes guts. You're not failing them, you're fighting for them. Gabriel dropped his gaze. But what if fighting isn't enough? Helena shook her head gently. You are enough. Those 3 words rattled through him like a bell. You are enough. A week later, Laura handed him a letter. This came for you, she said, trying to sound casual. Gabriel tore it open. An interview. A company in town, small, family-owned, promising growth and work-life balance. Should I get my hopes up? Laura asked, hesitating. Gabriel smiled for the first time in weeks. Maybe just a little. The next morning, he stood outside the building in a suit he'd had for years. Knees shaking. Laura had texted him right before he walked in. No matter what happens. We're proud of you. Inside, the interview was warm, almost kind. The manager, a calm woman named Denise, asked about his skills, but also about his values. His family. What mattered to him. Gabriel felt tears threaten as he spoke. I want a job where I can be present for my daughter. He told her, where I can be a husband, too, not just a paycheck. Denise smiled softly. We respect that here. When he left, hope pulsed in his veins like oxygen. Driving home, he dared to dream again. That evening, Laura met him at the door. How'd it go? Gabriel pulled her close. It went good. Laura's face lit up, a glow he hadn't seen in far too long. I'm proud of you, she whispered. Gabriel rested his forehead against hers. I don't know what comes next. He admitted. Neither do I, Laura said, but we'll figure it out. And for the first time in years, Gabriel believed her. In Chapter 6, Gabriel will face the final test of rebuilding. Can he stay true to his new values when temptation strikes again? Join us in the next part of this journey to see how courage is not a single act, but a daily choice. Chapter 6. Holding the line. 2 weeks later, Gabriel was offered the job. The relief nearly buckled his knees when Denise called. We'd love to have you, Gabriel, she said with a warmth that seemed to wrap around his bruised soul. Can you start next Monday? Yes, he breathed, heart pounding. Absolutely. Laura hugged him so tight that tears spilled down both their faces. Even Alice joined in, giggling, oblivious to the months of strain her parents had carried alone. For the first time, Gabriel sat at the dinner table without the constant dread of emails buzzing in his pocket. The quiet tasted new, fragile, like a blessing he didn't know how to trust yet. The weekend before his first day, Jonas called. Gabriel stared at the number flashing on the screen, a cold fist gripping his stomach. Against Laura's advice, he picked up. Jonas's voice was like a knife. I heard you took a job with some mom-and-pop shop. It's a good place, Gabriel answered calmly. Jonas scoffed. You think you're a hero now? You think you'll be some great father because you're working less? Gabriel swallowed, breathing slow. I think I'll be a better father. A better husband. Jonas spat out a mocking laugh. You'll come crawling back, Gabriel, when the money runs out. When they can't keep you. Gabriel closed his eyes. Steady. Goodbye, Jonas. And for the first time in years, he meant it. Monday came, crisp and bright. Gabriel walked into the new office, greeted by Denise and a small team who shook his hand like they were genuinely glad he'd joined. They gave him a modest desk, A welcome sign scribbled with colorful markers. And a coffee mug that read, "We're glad you're here." No flashy perks. No ridiculous pressure. Just people. Humans. That night, he told Laura about his first day. It was good. He smiled, amazed at how foreign the word felt. Really good. Laura beamed, a softness returning to her eyes. That's all I ever wanted, Gabe, for you to come home happy. Me too, he said, voice thick, but the next week tested him. An old client from Jonas's company tracked him down, offered him a huge contract, under the table, promising triple his new salary. Gabriel paced the living room late into the night, the numbers dancing through his mind. Mortgage, college, stability. He could erase every financial worry in one stroke. Laura saw his turmoil. Gabe, talk to me, she urged. He rubbed his temples. If I took this deal, we could finally breathe. Laura, but at what cost? She asked gently. He clenched his fists. They'd want me to do it on the side. No taxes. Off the books. Laura shook her head. That's not you anymore. But what if? She interrupted, placing her hand on his heart. Gabe, you promised Alice you'd be there. You promised me. Gabriel let out a shuddering breath, her words sinking like anchors into his restless mind. That night, he dialed the old client back. I appreciate the offer, he said, voice steady, but I can't. The man scoffed. You'll regret this. Gabriel closed his eyes. No, I won't. And he hung up. Later, Laura curled against him in bed, a quiet pride in her voice. That took guts, she whispered. Maybe, Gabriel answered, but for the first time in my life, I'm not afraid of doing the right thing. The next morning, he walked to work under a soft sunrise, a calm in his chest he'd never known before. In Chapter 7, Gabriel will discover that keeping your values is only the beginning. What happens when an old enemy decides to sabotage his new start? Stay with us as the final test approaches. Chapter 7. The Final Trial. They say when you change your life, the universe will test you one last time. For Gabriel, that test came sooner than he expected. It started with an anonymous email. Short, venomous. Watch your back. You think you're clean, but you're not. He read it 3 times. His pulse spiking. Laura noticed him pale at the kitchen table. What's wrong? She asked. Voice laced with worry. Probably just spam, Gabriel lied, forcing a smile, but he couldn't shake it off. That night, he called Marcus, the old mentor who had once been his moral compass back in Jonas's company. Marcus, he said, voice tight, someone is trying to scare me. Marcus exhaled slowly. Jonas? It has to be. Marcus paused. He's angry. Gabe, you turned your back on him. Men like him don't forgive that. Gabriel ran a hand through his hair. What should I do? Do nothing illegal. Marcus warned. Let him come. You're stronger now. A few days later, an unexpected letter arrived from the IRS, an audit notice. Gabriel's chest tightened as he read every line, cold sweat breaking across his back. Laura found him standing by the fridge, eyes glazed over. Talk to me, she pleaded. Gabriel showed her the letter. They're auditing me. Laura, Jonas knows people, he's pulling strings. She went pale. Oh my God? It's like he wants to destroy me. Gabriel whispered. Laura gripped his shoulders. Then fight. Show them the truth. But what if they dig up something I missed? What if? She stopped him with a steady gaze. Gabriel, you are not that man anymore. You have nothing to hide. He nodded, swallowing his fear, holding on to her faith like a lifeline. At the IRS office a week later, Gabriel sat across from a stern auditor. Every question felt like a dagger, each answer digging up ghosts of the past. Mr. Harris, the auditor asked flatly, why did you leave your previous employer so suddenly? Gabriel took a breath, fingers clasped so tightly they hurt. Because I couldn't keep sacrificing my family, he said, voice steady, and I wouldn't cross the line anymore. The auditor studied him for a long, silent moment, then made a small note on her pad. We'll be in touch, she said. Back home, Gabriel slumped on the couch, feeling like every last nerve had been shredded. Alice climbed into his lap with her teddy bear. "Daddy?" she asked softly. "Are you okay?" He forced a smile and kissed her head. "Yeah, sweetheart. Daddy's okay." Laura knelt beside him, brushing his cheek. "You did the right thing. I'm so tired." "Laura," he confessed, voice cracking. "I just want to live. I don't want to keep fighting." "Then don't," she whispered. "Let the truth fight for you." Gabriel nodded, tears pooling, unable to believe how far he'd come. 2 weeks later, the IRS closed the case. No errors, no wrongdoing. Gabriel felt as if someone had lifted a 1,000-pound boulder off his chest. He stepped out into the front yard, looked up at the evening sky, and let out a shaky laugh that turned into a cry. Laura joined him, wrapping her arms around his waist. "It's over," she whispered. "Yeah," he nodded, breathing deep. "It's finally over." In that moment, as a breeze passed through the trees, he realized he was free, not because Jonas had left him alone, but because he had chosen not to be controlled anymore. And that, he knew, was the greatest victory of all. Gabriel's story might sound extraordinary, but it holds a lesson for each of us, no matter how dark the path. There is always a way back to yourself. In the final segment, let's reflect together on how courage, honesty, and empathy can build a life worth living. Stay with us for the heartfelt conclusion. You know, when I look back on everything, I realize this story wasn't really about beating Jonas. It wasn't about revenge. It was about me. About reclaiming my own worth, my own voice, and refusing to let fear dictate who I am. It was about remembering that no title, no paycheck, no illusion of power should ever cost you the love of your family or the peace in your heart. I learned, the hard way, that real strength isn't in how many deals you close or how many people you impress. Real strength is being able to say, enough. It's having the courage to choose honesty over comfort, to choose your loved ones over empty victories. Sometimes, the hardest battles we fight are the ones inside our own heads. And sometimes the hardest victories are the quietest ones, the choice to walk away, to start over, to forgive ourselves. If you're listening to this right now, I hope you remember this. You are not alone. There are always people who will stand with you if you dare to speak your truth. Never trade your soul for success. Never let someone else convince you that you are worth less than your values. And if my story moved you, please let me know in the comments. Tell me what you would have done. Would you have stayed, or would you have walked away? I would truly love to hear your thoughts. If you felt this story gave you even a small spark of courage, I'd be grateful if you could hit like. Share this with someone who might need it. And don't forget to subscribe so I can keep bringing you more stories of strength, hope, and healing. Your support means more than you can imagine. It gives me the fuel to keep creating, to keep sharing, and to keep building this community with you. Thank you for listening, truly. From the bottom of my heart. Until next time, take care of yourself, and never stop believing you deserve a life you love.